Yeah, yes, I can hear you.
Yes, we can hear you.
Yes, we can hear you. Assalamualaikum.
Walaikum salam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. I think I got everybody who was trying to get in. We're gonna start in about 2 minutes. I just want to make sure that everybody who's trying to come in can get in. I'm gonna ask that anybody who's not using their microphone to speak at the moment that you use the microphone, so that everybody who does speak can be heard properly. And I'm recording this just for the brothers and sisters that don't get a chance to show up, who want to show up later, if that's okay with everybody. And what I'll do is I'll post the recording back on Facebook afterwards, so everybody have access to it. All right. And just one more minute. I'm just falling through some people who are having a hard time getting in them out. Assalamu alaikum, Brother Wali Ali. We're starting in about 1 minute. Just trying to help people who are trying to get in to get in. That's all. Okay. Bismillah. All right. So how's everybody doing I'm gonna say this evening. Some of us is different times because we all come from different places. Assalamu alaikum. Hello. Good evening. Depending on the greeting that best fits you and makes you feel most comfortable. So this is I want to kind of get myself acquainted with who's here. I know some people. I don't know some people. And just want to like fill out who all we're talking to right now. And by the way, I'm calling in from Nur Sultan, Kazakhstan, just so you know. And somewhere in the conversation, I'll explain why I'm not calling you from Georgia. So I'm gonna start from my top left, and feel free to open up your mic, tell us who you are, and then we can go ahead and get started. But everybody knows who's in the room, because there's also a benefit to this, that we know other brothers and sisters who actually want to do things like move out on their own and build their own. And this might also be an opportunity for people to find those other brothers and sisters that are like themselves. I'm gonna call out Sister Munchie.
Hello. Oh.
Hi, everyone. My name is Munchie. Okay, so I'm the creator of it's called Project Speak and Hush. Basically, we're a movement to help evolve the consciousness of humanity with different aspects from business to like spiritual work. My goal is to build a village to basically it's a village to like upbring entrepreneurs and just get them started back on to like being bosses, building generational wealth, different things like that.
Brother Maurice. You got to unmute your microphone, brother.
I had saw your post on Facebook, and I was very curious to know what you are doing. I'm originally living out in Florida right now, and I've been an entrepreneur for about 4 years now.
Brother Todd.
Actually, it's Hamza, and I met you one time. You were in Georgia. You came out to a meeting that we had, and you kind of expressed some things to us. That's how I ended up getting this book. And I'm just here to listen and see what we can get out of this.
Okay. Professor K. Green.
Oh yeah, hey, I met you through Cairo some time ago. But I am mental health therapist, psychotherapist, looking to build a holistic wellness center.
Mr. Madonna.
No, he's not there. Let's go anyway. Yes, so my name is LaDonna Madden. I'm currently residing in Chicago. And my family and I were looking to build a community. And so I saw your Facebook post. I've been kind of following you even before that. So that's where I am today.
Yes, ma'am. Brother Lamar.
What's going on, sir? How are you?
What's happening, man?
Met you probably, 2 years ago?
2 years ago.
Came through the Wakanda group. We saw you doing everything you were doing, Freedom Nation. Somebody told me reach out, and I've been rocking with you since, brother. So I saw this meeting. Of course, I'm gonna have to jump in. So,
Sister Shanika.
Greetings, everyone. My name is Shanika. I currently live in Georgia for about 3 months now. I found Freedom Nation maybe 2 or 3 years ago on the internet, researching just eco-village and intentional communities. I spent the last year at the farm intentional community in Tennessee, mostly white people. That's all I've been seeing. And, for the last 10 years, studied permaculture and holistic health and wellness. I'm a student midwife, and I'm a mother of 3 girls, and know that there's no way forward as a people if we're not into community and building together.
Sister Shanika, did you learn under Sister Salama?
Yeah, I'm actually friends with her. I go to births with her.
Yeah, that we call her grandma. That's one of our elders.
Mm-hmm.
Brother Wali Ali.
Assalamu
alaikum.
How are you, sir? I'm here to support and do whatever I need to do. I'm gonna bring everything. I'm bringing it all. So let me know what you need.
Brother New Kingdom with one of the most awesome beards of anybody on this call right now.
Hey, shalom, everybody. My name is Nick Paul. I recently just made a post on the agriculture page and about this vision I had building an eco village for our people. Because going through research, I've been trying to find ways to become self-sufficient, ways to go off grid. Somewhere for our people to go to disconnect you know, from eating out of master's hand, you know, like depending on master for everything and, you know, building amongst ourselves, right? And so I've been sitting on this vision for like the last 2 years. You know, I made a post about it. I kind of lost hope in it because, you know, I got a lot of bad feedback, from investors. You know, I kind of know a couple NFL players, millionaires and stuff, and brought my idea to them, and they was like, oh, you know, Negroes don't like camping. Don't nobody know about no eco village or none of that. So, you know, I just kind of let it go, you know. And when I made this post about this vision I've been sitting on, I realized how many other people are like-minded like me and want to build this, you know. And then, you know, somebody tagged me in this meeting saying that you're gonna have this meeting and about the 10 acres, and I'm like, then I did some research on you and see that you have something called Freedom Village and what you're building. I'm like, oh, okay, this brother is on it. So, you know, I'm like, you know, wherever I could fit in and put my brick in, I'm down, man. You know.
I got you, brother. Brother, I think I'm missing people because things are not in perfect order. But did I get Sister LaDonna? Did I get you?
Yes, you got me.
Okay, I'm sorry. My children took my brain power. I lose memory cells by the minute. I got 10 kids for those who don't know. Sister Shanika, did I get you as well?
Yeah, I was already on.
Okay, who did I miss? I'm missing somebody. I want to make sure that. Oh, Sister Majida, I didn't get you.
Yeah, Assalamu
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Alhamdulillah. Yeah, so Sister Majida from Brooklyn, New York. I've been a big fan of Brother Hunter and your family for some time. First time I met you, it's funny. It was Asr Salat, and a brother actually brought me to your house. I was in Georgia, and he said, we're gonna go pray at this family's house, and it was your house. And then you gave us like a little bit of the tour, and I saw the permaculture and like all this machinery in the back. I'm like, oh, these brothers, mashallah, they're on it down here, you know. So I've been following you ever since then. But long story short, I'm, you know, the admin and operations manager for Masha Taco. I've been with the community for a long time, and I kind of got a big family now myself. So I've always been interested in like how we can, like the brother said earlier, go off grid and be self-sufficient. It's just getting other people on the mindset to think like that as well. So that's why I'm here to learn more.
Brother Maurice.
Yeah, you got me already, Faruq.
Okay, I'm sorry, brother. Brother Harun. Harun, you there? You know your mic is muted, right? Okay, brother Brian. All right. I see him in a minute. Okay, so I want to, you know, before I just get, I want to make this a fluid conversation. I want to say first that this, you know, I think a lot of times, brothers, we get to sit with each other, sisters get to sit with each other, and we can monologue too much. So I want to make sure that this is a really fluid conversation. Brothers, sisters, jump in whenever you see fit. Be real open with questions and stuff like that. I'm gonna tell you that what the agenda is like this. First, I want to kind of explain what Freedom Nation is and where this offer comes from, and I want to explain to you the scope of what we're dealing with and why we're using this opportunity with everything that's going on to try to see if we can reach out to a couple more brothers and sisters and see if people are serious about really putting in the time and the work necessary to build for themselves, which we, by the way, believe that is the only true solution to stop the madness that we're seeing is if we control our own realities. I play it out a million times, and I just cannot see a better way to get it done. That's one. And then once I explain what Freedom Nation is and our scope, in the midst of that, I'm gonna explain why I'm calling from where I'm calling from. In Nur Sultan, Kazakhstan right now. I'm on the Chinese border. Chinese borders on my east, and the Russian borders on my north. and why that's significant to us. Because I know a lot of brothers and sisters are like, why in the world are you there, brother? And then I'm going to explain that overall. Then I wanted to, explain a little bit about the process of actually building for yourself and what is truly required. And then, and that's a real important thing. I want to explain that, kind of get into that. And I want to get into the offer. I'm going to tell you about the offer first, before I tell you about anything else. But then in the midst of all that, I'm praying that we ask a whole lot of questions and we engage in conversation and we come out to some actionable, and that's what's important, is actionable things. I can tell you, I'm from Tuskegee, Alabama. My family has been there for multiple generations. My great grandmother was one of the students of Booker T. Washington. We grew up on 40 acres of land in Tuskegee. That is where I grew up as a kid. And we farmed and we did all those kinds of things. And I have several people in my family who were brick builders. I have, unfortunately, some members of my family that are part of Tuskegee syphilis tests, they just went through the whole Tuskegee saga. So I take on the ideas of Booker T when people don't notice about Booker T, but Booker T was the one who came up with the Greenwood concept. And Greenwood was a city, it was a city concept. One of the most successful ones was in Tulsa, Oklahoma, where they invited Booker T. Washington to Tulsa, and then he said, "This is the Black Wall Street." And a lot of folks don't even know that Booker T was the one who named Black Wall Street, Black Wall Street. So, so what he said is, I could have been a preacher, could have been a politician, I could have been many things, but I chose to be a doer. And as a doer, I chose to build. So I take on that methodology, and I think it's the best route for us. So please, at any moment, do not feel like you're cutting me off. You can open up the mic and let's just start talking. It's not a monologue. I'm not a preacher. My father was, but I'm not one. And we're here to talk to one another. Everybody's got a beautiful soul and a beautiful intention. And my voice is big. So when you do cut in, speak up. I'll shut down so that you can get the floor and talk. Is that all right with everybody?
Mm-hmm.
So first of all, about the offer overall. So let me tell you that we have 205 acres inside Hancock County, Georgia, that is a part of a 4,000 acre plot. The land that is there used to be part of the largest plantation in the country. A lot of people don't know this, but Hancock County, Georgia was one of it was the real candy land. It was the #1 place for slaves in the entire country. It was the heart of the economy of Georgia, but it was also one of the very few places in the entire country where the strength of Black people coming out of slavery was so strong that the white people who were the former, slavers, that they actually found themselves giving everything they owned back to those same Black people, because after the Civil War, they actually helped them up instead of knocking them down. So one of the things that you have out there, you have 1,000 acres right down the street from us, which was the first school in the world to ever teach African Americans how to do heart surgery and how to do other surgeries. That family that's out there, that brother birthed 5 children that became presidents of major universities throughout the country, and then actually educate a lot of people. Hancock County has so much history in it that it is ridiculous. It is deep Black history. And what happened in white Georgia is what they've tried to do is take Hancock County and push it into Taliaferro County to get rid of its name so that its history and its Black history is lost.
Right.
One of the things that we're doing in that space is that we're actually trying to create an economic center in Hancock County. I'll explain just a little bit about Hancock. We took 2 years to find that county. And a lot of people talk about building, but they don't think about what are the conditions that you need to build a Black Mecca. You can't just do it anywhere. You know, there's a lot of brothers who threw up a piece of land and they're fighting their white neighbors every day. Some of them fighting their black neighbors every day. You know, they got all these stories about people sneaking up on their property, about having run-ins, having the cops come out there. Let me give you the example of Hancock County. There was me, my wife, and about 6 or 7 of us walking with machetes and rifles and handguns because there are black boar out on the property and snakes. So when you go into an untamed piece of property, you got to be ready to hunt. And so we were ready to hunt and cut down the woods. This white guy is driving along the road and sees us, almost kills himself, swerving on the road, just scared as hell. Then when he calls the police, because remember, you know, my wife and they're all inside hijab. So there's a bunch of Muslims with guns and knives. My man had the worst day of his life. And so he called the police. We had 3 cop cars fly down there, zoom, 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 zoom. And when they flew down there, I was already in the woods, and my wife and the baby and someone else were out on the street again, my daughter. And so one of the ladies jumped out the car and said, man, can you put down the machete? She put down her machete, everything else. Now that's number one. First confrontation with the cops, you got arms in your hand, and they don't draw their guns, they don't do nothing. They just say, can you please put it down? So she put it down, right? And then she said, the detective got out, and she said, man, we got a really weird call about some bad stuff. And he said, yeah, my husband's Faruq Hunter. This is, you know, Freedom Visuals. And so then the detective looks at, who? He said, y'all. He said, oh, we know who y'all are. Man, all right, see y'all later, man. And then she said, you sure? He said, see y'all later, bye. And so we turned around, put everybody in the car. Like I put about 4 or 5 people in the car, drove down to City Hall. Right after that happened, drove down to City Hall. And we went up there, and I told the brother who was the cop, I said, you know, when I came down here, you were one of the main people that made me want to move to Hancock County. Because when I met that head of the police there, when I showed up and told him what we were there to do, he said, y'all brothers need to come down here. He said, man, we need y'all brothers, man. Y'all need to come down here and work. Then we walked over from him after we shook hands with the cops, gave a couple of hugs and stuff because they knew us. We cool, no problem. We walked over into Sisty's office, who's the commissioner of Hancock County, who, by the way, hugs everybody when they walk in the door and then knows everything that we're doing. So first of all, understand the dynamics of Hancock County are such that is 85% black. And most of the people who aren't black live over by the lake, and they just happen to be in Hancock County. They don't want to be in Hancock County, but they want that lake property, you know, but they away from everything else. There are 489 square miles occupied by less than 7,000 people and declining at a rate of 10% annually. It is the poorest county in the state of Georgia, and it is one of the poorest counties, the 70th poorest county in the United States of America. And because of that, less than 1,300 people are required in order to elect the commissioner. And the district commissioner of our district is elected with 300 votes, which means that anything that you do out there, you will be able to elect your officials from the top to the bottom. Every cop, every commissioner, every city official can be elected by whomever develops a successful development in that space. And the space falls, I don't want to give him no props. I don't want to give him no props at all. It falls in this opportunity zone space. That means whatever money you put in it, you don't pay taxes on it as long as you keep working for 10 years straight, right? So that's another thing that's out there in Hancock County. The whole county is an opportunity zone. So we chose that place strategically because it gives us the ability to build, and the outcome of our building is that we will control the county from top to bottom. And that's really, really, really important as part of the conversation that we're having right now about our folks. You know, you can build in a lot of places, you can set up stuff in other cities, but man, you will not have the opportunity to say that the entire border of a county belongs to you, lock, stock, and barrel. That is something that took us a while to find. That wasn't something that we just found overnight. So that's Hancock County. And like I said, interrupt me. I'm going to slow down on my speech every now and again so that anyone wanting to interrupt can do so or ask. So
So with this, so
go
with
ahead.
this, with the proposal of the 10 acres, in terms of the home building, is there a minimum homes square footage, or what does that sound like?
Not at all. The main thing is about the necessity for people to build what's necessary to sustain themselves. The most of a lot of folks don't really know that we have a history of building these small towns and failing at them. And the reason we fail is because there's not always everything needed to sustain us. Like we talk about like Tulsa, and we talk about Rosewood and all that stuff. And we talk about things like the Black Summer of the Red Summer of 1917, where they killed off so many Black people in so many settlements. But those only represented 10% of the Black towns in the United States. There were 208 exclusively Black cities in 1910. I mean, exclusively Black, founded by Black people, occupied by Black people, built by Black people. What people don't know is the primary thing that killed that space was people who were afraid to maintain it, and children who ran from those properties instead of supporting the ideals of their parents. So, and a lot of people don't know that. They really don't know that people like Booker T at the time was one of the most successful Black people for building his own. In Tuskegee, it was the largest brick maker. Literally, Tuskegee University was the largest brick manufacturing company in the country. Not Black, period. Right? They were building at a pace that almost nobody could keep up with. And he was encouraging groups of students to go around the country and build these spaces. And they were building these spaces left and right. Greenwood in Tulsa was just one example. That the Black Wall Street was just one. But Greenwood examples existed all around the South. And they were very successful in what they did, but they had young people who just didn't want to stick. So after the second, third generation, they abandoned it. That's what happened in Hancock. You know, that 1,000-acre big, huge school that their father built, nothing but ash right now. It crumbled to the ground because nobody sustained it.
I think, it's very important for us to establish some type of plan, some foundational plan. Just like you said, for as far as like the basic necessities for what we do need moving forward. Some of the go ahead.
No, go ahead, Sister Munchie. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Okay, so I can say some of the things that we are dealing with is like, all right, so like food scarcity, because so many people like depend on these grocery stores. So creating a garden, this is one that I wanted to do. That was going to be a part of my community group. It's called Speaking Hush Garden, and this is where we're going to be teaching the youth and adults how to survive, just like, build fruits, build different trees and plant trees and everything, greenhouses, indoor gardening, different things like that that can help us if food does become scarce. Also educating the people about the right foods to eat as far to help them evolve. And then I really think being educated and being what is it called? Like just having that structure just to protect ourselves and everything like that, having everyone in place.
So, Sister Munchie, I'll cover that. I'll tell you more about that. I'll tell you what Freedom Nation is. Freedom Nation was a creation that came out of not just I'll tell you what the path was. My father made an insistence upon us that we had to build our own. Like we were raised under that mantra. None of us in my family were woke. We were never asleep. We were raised as little kids. If you had asked me at 5 years old, what was I trying to do? I would have told you that I wanted to build the ideal community for Black people. And I have a vivid memory of an old woman in Tallahassee, Florida, on the bus asking me at 5 years old, what was I trying to do? What did I want to do when I grew up? And I remember telling her just that. So we grew up with that concept. It wasn't something that was implanted later or whatever.
Right.
It was always part of who we were.
Mm-hmm.
I have 14 brothers and sisters. And I can tell you that my father, Imam Abdul Kareem, you know, he put a heavy emphasis in us. He moved us down to Tuskegee on land so we could learn how to do the things that it meant to survive on the land. We built our own house. I remember helping my father and another brother actually construct our house, like actually build it. We built it piece by piece. It's still standing down in Tuskegee right now. And we grew up beside our cousins, you know, and other people on what we call Hunter Hill. My last name's Hunter, on Hunter Hill. All the streets in Tuskegee, Alabama that surround Hunter property are called Hunter Street. If you go down to Tuskegee, you come off of exit 42, north of southern Tuskegee, you make a left, you're going to ride and you're going to see Hunter Street on your left-hand side. And that's the legacy of our folks. So we are actively doing this. Like, we've done this, you know. My father was from New York. He lived inside of Queens over in Flushing, and he lived there for a long time. So, you know, very funny. I'm a country person by heart. He was not. It was funny to see him go through all the hardship of learning how to plant at scale. At scale, I can tell you how many rabbits and insects ate all our turnips every year. So we Freedom Nation evolved because I started to spend my youth. I graduated from high school when I was 13 years old, and I started out in the Khartoum, Sudan. I went to Africa, and I spent a year in Africa. And when I was in Africa, I saw the condition of Black people. In Sudan, there's a legacy from the British that the light-skinned Northerners are racist against the dark-skinned Southerners. You know, they have a word. They don't say nigga, they say Janub. And I used to be the guy standing on the back of the bus, you know, lorry, a big truck, you know, slapping people in the face for trying to knock over the dark-skinned sisters when they got on the bus. You know, that was me at 14. And so I started to understand that our problem immediately, even before 15 years old, was an international problem. It wasn't a local problem. That it was colonialism that had put us all in this condition. And this idea of a global system that was spanned out from all directions. And we were diaspora and connected to a future that could be a connected future. We had to be part of it. Like Malcolm X pointed out what happened in 1954 in the Badung Conference in Indonesia, when the president of Indonesia announced that they had developed the first intercontinental meeting of people of color, which was every president in the world that wasn't from a colonizing state, you know. And he said, even Malcolm said at the time, that was an example to us. So I've traveled to about 83 different countries now. And in that process, it was all about finding out how do we build for ourselves? What is the real thing? And I've spent about from 17 to about 33 traveling and learning. Just traveling and learning, asking questions, engaging. If I saw a project somewhere like in Orville, India, there's a huge project, 2,000 acres. I was there, right? I was there. I learned what they had. I took my son, I took my brother. We learned how to do brick making from the top people that were there. If we saw a project in Berlin, if we saw a project in Africa, I was down in Morocco. We built houses in Morocco last year, you know, and then we were down in Sudan, down in Kenya. I've been down inside Johannesburg and Pretoria, Cape Town, ran up to Addis Ababa, over to Senegal, in Ghana, everywhere, trying to figure out what to do. How do we do this? What's a solid plan? Where can you go wrong? How can you hurt yourself trying to do this? And what came out of that was Freedom Nation. And Freedom Nation, we started with a book called The Principles of Freedom that laid the necessities of what it meant to take control over your resources. There's my brother got it right there. Brother Ty got it right there. I hope I signed that for you, Brother Ty. but that was a culmination of those experiences. There you go. That was a culmination of those experiences put into very simple text. And it basically said that if you don't take care of these things for yourself, somebody else will. And when they do, you need to not complain that they have, because you have failed yourself. Then the second thing was that you had to be so excellent at what you do that you could provide for other people. And when people become dependent on you, they do not attack you. You know, Sun Tzu talks about the strategies of war and people. When you have a space that you depend on, he talks about this space in the middle, a land that connects three warring states. And he says, when everyone depends on the space in the center, no state attacks that state. So our best chance for being able to sustain ourselves, 42 million in the US is not so big compared to the population, but we're definitely not so big compared to 7 billion, right? So we have to be a nation of excellence. And we created that as a principle of freedom. Brother Todd, I see you want to chime in.
Faruq.
Yes, sir.
What about mineral rights?
So that's what I'm getting to. The idea is that you have to control the land. That's the first one. The second one is that you have to do all the things that help you control the land. You have to plan. You have to analyze what you got. You got to figure out what you can build. You have to innovate with what you have, right? So one of the things that we're doing at Freedom Nation is we've been doing this for years now. We went along this path. We analyzed what we had in Hancock County. We analyzed that we had clay, sand, silt. We have a ridiculous amount of timber. We have lots of timber. We have a mile and a half worth of river running through the properties, and other access to other resources. So we went around the world to figure out, how do you make building materials from everything we have? And we focused on a technology that allows us to make brick. And then we focused on technology that allows us to mill those trees into lumber. And then what happened is myself and my two brothers, we got together because we needed a group of people that were going to commit 100% of their income to Freedom Nation's growth. And that's what we did. We literally took a spreadsheet, sat it down, laid down every dime we earned, and everything our family didn't immediately need, we put into a Freedom Nation account, and we spent the money on machinery. We went down to Campo Grande, Brazil, and we brought automated brick machines. We brought automated earth processing machines. We then went down and brought our own tractors and our backhoes. We went and brought saws, routers, everything that you can imagine to work with wood. We brought trowels, everything that you could get to build, we have. We brought everything that you need to design. So as far as design, we have all of our design suites. And then when we trained ourselves, I was already an expert in AutoCAD, but we trained other people in AutoCAD and Autodesk and Revit. So in our own space at Freedom Labs in Atlanta, we can design any structure that you come up with. We can get those designs approved, and we can get them printed out and put in your hands and put out. Sister Majida.
Assalamu alaikum. So my question is, so in the announcement that you posted, you said that we need a group of 10 people. I take it like you know from the experience and the research that you've done, like, is each person, like, obviously each person is allocated to a position, but could you kind of lay out like the main positions, or what that group looks like and what they do?
So in the essence of saying that, we found out how to build our own materials, and then we spent years learning how to build our own houses from the material. We've actually built actual buildings with our materials. I'll even tell you, when I sent my son Dean to Morocco, we built for the U.S. Department of Energy and the King of Morocco. It was a big challenge event to see who could build the most sustainable. And I wanted our materials, our black materials, I wanted us to win that event. I didn't want anybody else to go to Africa, a bunch of white people, and say, we built the most sustainable house in Africa. I didn't want that title. So I wanted us to have that title. And alhamdulillah, we have that title. The King of Morocco, the U.S. Department of Energy, we won #1 with our materials and our methods, building the most sustainable house in Africa, right? So, and we competed against brothers from Rwanda, from Tanzania. We competed against tons of other teams. The reality is that in the process of learning that, you've got years of actually building, right? So once you get from the design table and you analyze what's in your ground and what you can do, you have to start building. The first process is to extract the materials from the ground. The best designs that we have allow us to dig into the ground deep enough to create the foundations for the buildings. And in the process of digging, we actually find the materials that we need to build the building itself. And it's a perfect calculation. You have to calculate to perfection in order to make that happen. It's not a haphazard thing. You also have to then prepare certain grounds, even back to Sister Munchie's point, that you have to master design your area so that you have the proper amount of space. You have the proper amount of space for water. You have the proper amount of space for every single essential need, preparing energy, everything else, in order to sustain that community. So as you dig in the ground, as you dig in the ground, you'll understand that you have to have a certain set of people to move the earth. It's real. Like, I mean, it's really, really real, right? You need at least 5 people in order to move the earth in such a way where you move it, you dry it out, you prepare it, and then you process it to make brick. The brick making process requires 5 people. Just that simple. You got to have a 2 people working the dirt, mixing the cement and everything else. They have to then process that down the line. You got 1 man on the brick machine making the brick, and you got 2 men or women stacking those bricks actively. So you actually literally need 5 people. At the exact same time that's going on, you need 5 people with chainsaws and chains taking down trees and then cutting them to size. You need that manpower in order to move those logs onto the mill and then mill them into your 2x4s, 2x6s, 2x8s, and 2x10s and 12s, and 4x4s, so you can actually build your roof, your floors, your furniture, and your cabinetry. Which, like I said, if you go down to Freedom Village in Atlanta, you'll see that we actually have built these things, and you'll see the actual spaces. So you can see that we actually have tried this. We used to do a 6-week boot camp once a year to develop what we call free folks, which were people who were able to go out and do this work. And we're still willing to offer that training to anybody who takes this offer. The 10 acres that we're offering is part of the 205. And I don't mind giving away 50 acres, just as long as you come with the crew that can do the work and that they're committed, because this is not an overnight process. It's not. You know, it's real hard work. And we've seen from other communities in our own community that people bail, like their social issues will make them bail way before the work is done.
Right.
You know, we haven't even trained the muscles necessary to do the type of work that's necessary to build for ourselves. One of the first things you have to do is admit, I am not skilled, nor have I trained myself to do this type of work. And I have to give myself an on-ramp to this work. I haven't put a buck there. So yeah, Brother Todd, I want to make sure I'm answering Sister Majita's question all the way. So those 10 people are required to do the work needed to build. The 2 5-man crews that constantly complement each other. Once one is drying the brick, the other 5 actually lay in the brick. The other 5 are processing the lumber. They're actually then building up the structures. The other 5 are doing this and that. So they complement each other. It's a necessity to actually developing something. And I'm sorry, Brother Todd. Did I answer your question?
Yes, you got it.
I think Brother Todd is trying to chime in.
Okay.
While it's on.
All right, real quick. Okay, so I'm a contractor. I spoke with you briefly when you were here, and we talked about a couple of things like the spray foam and whatnot. But I guess the main thing when you're homesteading, I guess, is what it would have to be for a while, camping, homesteading, is I guess economics. How long would something like that take? And what would somebody, because obviously you don't have the infrastructure, I guess, in place to sustain people, right? So provisions, I guess, is the deal, right? So we have to figure out, I guess, logistics, like because of course all the things that you said about manpower and all that, like I understand that like 100%. You know what I mean? Because those logs are heavy. Everything got to be cut to either 10 feet, 8 feet. You know what I mean? 12 feet long and that type of thing. And if you're talking about a log that's 12 feet long, you know what I mean? Like it's kind of huge depending on the diameter and that type of thing. But provisions, you know what I mean? Explain to me the provisions and the economics of it, like because I guess the first week, um, the topic of provisions, or maybe the first 2 weeks, the topic of provisions is going to be like a big deal.
No, no, the first 2 hours.
Yeah,
That's,
right.
the first 2 hours, people are going to say, I'm hungry. So I'm going to tell you what brothers and sisters on the call should know is that, like I said, I have 10 children. And I was living at one level, right? Because Allah had blessed me to work up to be able to earn a certain amount to do it. But I intentionally moved my 10 children into a 2-bedroom house with 1 bathroom on an acre and a half of land, just so that we could learn the skills necessary to survive in that environment. My kids were the first occupants of Freedom Village. They went out and sat there in those tents. They built the tents. They tamed the land. They cut down the trees by hand. If you could imagine that, I'm telling you, my 15, 16, 17, 18-year-olds were out there with axes, tearing down trees with a circumference like this. And then my son, Dean, rolling them over, boom, 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 these big 500 pounds. And Sister Mary's right there. She's seen it.
Yeah.
She knows
Yeah.
that it happened for real. So
Yeah.
they I think I wore the poor folks out. But they went through that process. So one of the things that we had to learn is how to sustain ourselves if we want to do that. And I can tell you by experience what we did. So we went out. There's a dude up in Cartersville, Georgia, that sells old barrels. And we brought these big old black pickle barrels. And these big pack pickle barrels are like 500, I don't know, 500 gallons. They're big things. I'm trying to think of how many gallons they are, but they're big barrels. And then we filled each barrel up with wheat, sugar, rice,
Nice. Yeah.
black beans, red beans, all these types of things. We then
Yeah.
trained our family how to live off of those dry goods with the addition of a few goods that you can get from active farm animals. So if you have a cow will give you milk, cow will give you cheese, cow will give you all the milk products. And I know some brothers are vegans and vegetarians, but I'm just talking about survival. Okay, the hardship that is on a vegan or a vegetarian is that they are subjected to the limitations of the grow season. And if you introduce yourself into the property during the springtime, then you have to start your grow process immediately. We have a seed bank of heirloom seeds that have a history of 150 years inside of Georgia. These are same seeds that would have been planted by some of our brothers and sisters when they were still on plantations. And those seeds, why? Those seeds are acclimated to the conditions of Georgia. What does that mean? It means when I drop that tomato seed in the ground, I'm not just going to get a big stalk of tomato. I'm going to get 35 tomatoes. If you drop something that's not acclimated, you're just going to get 10 tomatoes, 5 tomatoes on a big old plant. And that's worthless. So we have the actual seeds stored inside a refrigerator right there in Freedom Labs. Brothers can pick them up, take them with them, and start planting. So you've got 2 options on the provision level. You can be truly self-sustainable, and that's possible. It's a huge learning curve. Do not underestimate the learning curve. It is a huge learning curve, but it is possible. And you will be subject, you see all these old movies about the farmers when it didn't rain and all that stuff, and all the different things that would happen to them. You will be subject to all of that. Because you're a pioneer, you are a settler. I hate to use that term, but you're a pioneer. You're someone that's coming into this space fresh. But you can try to come out with money. But what will money do for you? Money in that situation will give you access to resources that are available in the traditional stores, right? You still got to wean yourself off of that at some point. You cannot sustain this long term in that way. You will break. It will break. Your people will leave you. They will complain. It will happen. And everybody who's ever tried this has found this out the hard way, right? So typically you're going to go out with provisions for 6 months. And you have to actually sit down and talk with the 10 people about what it means to have 6 months worth of provisions.
Right.
Then alongside with a schedule of waking up at 6 a.m. and getting out to the job site at 8 a.m. as soon as the light breaks off the dawn. So it's like something 7 o'clock in the morning. And then work until the light goes away, like right before it goes away, so that you can still get back to the campsite and settle in. That's around 6 p.m. Along with that, these individuals have to be tooling themselves on the survival element as well. So they have to do things like learn how to make cheese. There's a community down in Texas where they went through this same process. They all left from New York. It was 50 people. They went down there and they started building the skills slowly. But what they did is they committed to do it. They said, no matter what, we're not leaving. They have this big thing that happens every year called Homestead Fair down in Texas. That was built by a bunch of folks from New York who just bailed out and said, we're going to build. They saved up a certain amount of money, then the whole community left. So you have to make sure you plan. You cannot do this without planning thoroughly. And as far as provisions, what my offer is this. I tried for 2 years to pay out of my personal pocket for provisions. We built up 14 people, and I offered them that part of the offer was you take 1.5 acres for yourself. That's your land. All I ask is for every you make a brick for the community. For every lumber you cut, make a piece of lumber for the community. And you will have just as many building materials as the community has. And I'm telling you that we paid for their food, we paid for other things, and it didn't matter. Because what people do very quickly in those circumstances is they associate whoever is giving them funds as the boss. They do it on their own. You don't have to say it. You don't insinuate that. You didn't create that. But we have a nature locked into ourselves where we automatically make that person the boss, and then we give them boss expectations. Where's my stuff? I don't have enough food. Oh, you didn't give me chicken this time instead of giving me beef, blah, 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 doom, 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 doom. And I'm telling you, it's a horrible thing to go through, because when you make the sacrifice to help people and they start becoming picky like that, it drives you crazy. I don't know how many brothers and sisters on here that I don't, whether we believe in biblical stories or not, the idea of that Moses walking out and people complain about manna and quails, that's a real concept though. I mean, it really is. It didn't matter they were all eating. It just mattered they didn't eat what they wanted after a while. And that breaks people. Some people just cannot, they consider that itself, not having diversity and as a form of slavery. And so there's nothing that you can do about that. So as far as provisions, Brother Todd, it's a calculation you have to make to the T. And then you have to do something that, we have to do it no matter how it feels. You have to drive. And I'm going to use the term drive because it has a good and a bad connotation. You have to drive the people to do the work to make sure that they can get things done before they run out of their resources. And that's the truth. So you literally have to push them and say, hey, I know that you
right, so big.
But dude, if you don't wake up at 6, then get up, get out. Because the thing is that if we don't finish this house in the next year or the next 2 years, we're going to run out of supply. And if we run out of supply, this is over anyway. And then the brother going to look at you and be like,
And we're gonna owe you $100,000.
yeah, you like the slave driver, man. You the master. And he be like, nah, I'm not the master, man, but we got to be disciplined around this work or else we're going to fail. I mean, I don't really want 100 grand from nobody, but my point is that brothers have to understand the level of investment that goes into being able to do it. You know, and my thing is to create something to make folks want to do the work. Because what I've noticed is that people associate freedom with laziness. And once you give it to them, as soon as they feel like they ain't got nobody on their back, you try to be the one to wake them up at 6. Oh man, you know, I did it for 3 weeks, man, but you know, you on my nerves, man. And then you put that with the complication of living in environments that you're not used to.
Right.
And the pressure of human beings goes out the window.
So what are we talking? Weekends? We're talking weekdays? Are we talking weekdays or are we talking weekends?
No, brother, it's a full commitment. Like, there's no way to do this without literally giving up the life you have.
It's a
and
sacrifice.
dedicating it to this building. You cannot be a weekend warrior on building your own community. It does not work. It does not work.
Right.
I remember
it's a lot of people.
Yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
People who usually get caught up in like material things, like what can they get from it, rather than seeing the big picture of healing humanity and bring it. Like, they don't see the bigger picture. And I feel like for those people, it's like it's not meant for them. The people who are going to be, are going to be here to help the village. This is what Spirit is sending them to, different things like that. Not someone who's like unwilling to do it because they will fold, because it's not their dream. Isn't for everybody. All they see is from what they're getting from it. They're probably looking at it from like a money point of view rather than the actual goal, of being sustained and different things like that for our community to help us thrive again. Different things like that. So we definitely have to make sure the mindsets are strong for everyone, because if everyone is not on the same mindset when coming in, then it's not going to get.
I wanted to go back to the point in a couple hours, like we discussed this before, Faruq, was that you had to have this massive plan already basically able to be executed immediately, because you have to have a place to sleep, eat. It's not just a couple weeks. It's like literally for months. And I think we went into the fact that we wanted to have like a self-sufficient RV. And then we went into the thing where it was trying to do like maybe a tiny house with a Dirksen building, things that were immediate, that you could live in immediately when you go down, and then process the rest of your plan 24 hours a day. It wasn't going to be, this is my 9 to 5, this is my weekend warrior type thing. The land really required for you to be like plug and play. You had to just get down there, put your feet on the ground, and not leave for X amount of time until at least minimum the first building was built. At least the first house was built.
So this is
you had now proper dwelling.
She's talking from experience. I just want to throw that in, Sister Miriam. I don't want to. I'm sorry. She's talking from experience. I hope you guys both know that she's talking from a decade of trying her best to move into a space. And I had a good conversation with her and her family, and I said, this is not a weekend thing. And they actually abandoned their house. They took their 2 babies. They put themselves in an RV. They went to communities. They tried to hold down a job and work this thing at the same time. And they can, this America tell you all the trials of
every single one.
And the fact that everything I said. So I want to reiterate that the offer is real. If you show you got 10 brothers willing to stick, and 10 brothers, sisters, 10 brothers, sisters, whatever your mix is, that are willing to put in this hard work, and that are willing to stick in, and I'm sticking to the point where you're willing to put in as much skin in the game as we have. And let me just tell you this. At this point, myself, my brother Mukhtar, my brother Isan, we have given up all of our personal savings. We have none. We got huge families. Between the three of us, we got 17 kids. And even with that, we left no provisions for them because we put all the money in Freedom Village.
Right.
And we're down about $650,000 right now into just the pieces in Georgia. The land
So
itself.
basically, we got to cash in the 401k and move out to Freedom Village.
So we did that. And as far as this, let me explain why I'm in Kazakhstan. We came to Kazakhstan because we knew after 2.5 years, 3 years of trying that we could not get brothers and sisters to commit enough to actually make this thing come real. So we couldn't afford labor in the United States. So we came over here to build a Freedom Village on the Chinese border, which we are. We're literally building a Freedom Village on the Chinese border, right? Because our plan had always included building Freedom Villages that were connected villages around the world so we can have our own autonomous government that can negotiate on its own terms. That's
a network.
Right? So we said, let's go ahead and jump because right now we can't do the U.S. because brothers and sisters are not willing to put in the work. We ain't got another 3-4 years to give away. I'm 42 years old. I'll be too old and we'll be too dried up if we sit around waiting for people who aren't really committed. So we need to go somewhere where we can find brothers and sisters of like suffering. Kazakhstan lost half, 14 million people to oppression and colonialism. They just came out of it 25 years ago. They took every imam, every sheikh, every preacher, every scholar. They sat 10,000 people in the middle of the street and shot them in the back of the head. The Russian police held these people down for so long that you have not seen anything like it. I saw it in Kosovo, but our other brothers seen it in the 1960s, 1950s with black people, right? Because not even what we're doing now. I'm talking about the level that 1940s, 1950s stuff. These people just came out of the situation. They just got the first computer in the government 10 years ago, 9 years ago, actually. Right? So we're here because these are people of like kind. When they hear our story, even though black people don't show up here, when they hear our story, immediately they connect. They already are touched by Muhammad Ali. That's one of their heroes. You know, they already love Malcolm X. They already love other people. And so they gave us the land here. We took 250, listen to what I'm about to say. We now have a 250,000 acre farm. 250,000 acres. Literally, I just planted 4,000 acres of wheat and barley. We 100% run it. We got 65 houses out there at Freedom Village here in Kazakhstan. And we did it because the work ethic was higher with the people in the village than the folks we could find at home. And now we're inviting brothers over here to build this up, build up their money, come back, and then build that crew to come back in Georgia. Right? So we're now building our other Freedom Villages around the world because it was cheaper to do it. And we have to keep paying out of our pocket. So it was easier to do it in these spaces than it was back at home. And it was easy to give brothers and sisters a haven outside the country so they could build up their community and their love with each other and learn how to be progressive and excellent in their work and then export them back in. That's why I'm calling you from Kazakhstan. It's not because we ran. It's because we knew what was happening now was going to happen. I wanted my babies out of that spot until we got stronger because I know me. You touch one of my kids, I'm killing you. I don't give a damn who the hell you are. You can be pop, whatever, mayor, whatever. I swear to God, I'm coming to put you in the grave. And so to save myself and to save my kids from not having a father, I came over here and we started building. Brother, can you stop the screen share?
Question. Just a question, real quick. If
Yeah.
you can you give a scope? Like, what's 250,000 acres? Like, how big is that? Like, that's crazy in my head right
It's
now.
insurmountable when you realize, like, we go on the dirt road to go back there, and
Orlando,
when you
Florida.
realize that you get on a dirt road, it's not like a little dirt road. You got 30 miles of dirt road to travel before you get to our processing center. And then when you come from the 30 miles, we have like different stations. We got 2,000 heads of cattle. And so as you're working with the 2,000 heads of cattle, right? And by the way, it's deep because the villagers that are there, one of the old men, this old guy named Bienbeck, right? Bienbeck told me that he was there when the Soviets were pretty much on their neck, and that he had been farming his land since the Soviets made him sell the 30,000 cattle out there when they left. They left and tried to burn everything while they ran out. And so when you're with them, you know what I'm saying? We sit down on the ground, we eat with our hands, we break bread. They speak in Russian and Kazakh, but we still know how to communicate with each other because we communicate based on our similarities. You have to go from the central station, you go 10 miles to get to the next station with a feeding station for the cattle. And then you can travel another 10 miles and another 10 miles and another 10 miles, and you're still on the property. It's insurmountable the amount of land that's available. And like, you know, we were tilling the fields. I brought the gas and stuff to till the field, and you see them out there working the tractors, and you say, "Dang, we did 4,000, 5,000 acres," and these like the whole conversation is, yeah, we can't wait till we can get it to its true capacity, because its true capacity is to plant 65,000 acres. You know, and by the way, I have an open invitation for any brother or sister that wants to make the trip and connect with the community here to do it. I'll give you a house, everything. You go straight in the house as long as you're willing to work. Because I'm saying those people out there, they will not respect you if you don't work. Those folks work. They work. They do not respect.
I'm down for that. My lease is up
I have an
next
open
month.
invitation. I can give anybody a visa. We can literally, Freedom Village can issue you a 5-year visa in this country to come and work and learn how to work here. We brought a brother named Kabela from South Africa who took his 3 acres that he got after the breakup of apartheid, and he built a $2.5 million cucumber farm on the 3-acre plot. You know, we got him coming out here. He's out here. We got brother Nuri Rashid committed. You know, they call him Mr. Urban Farming down in Georgia. You know, but see, Nuri knows what we did with my kids. Nuri knows what I put my kids through, and he committed himself to us a long time ago, and people don't know that. So you know, if you see me on Facebook, you see me being a little critical. I'm not being critical. I'm trying to get people to understand the level of sacrifice truly necessary to be independent. It's very hard. It's not easy. So all my brothers and sisters in this call know for a fact that I am extremely serious about facilitating your desire to build a space of our own. It is literally the entire purpose of my life. Any resources you have are available to you under one condition. You bring the people that are serious, and you put some skin in the game that shows that you are serious. And that's an immediate commitment. It's not like something you got to work up to, whatever. It's an immediate contract. Yes, we will go into a contract with one another that you will do the things that you say you're coming to do, because we are going to commit ourselves and things that we have sacrificed, even the relationships with our family for, in order to build.
Yeah.
And we are going to then give that to you. We must do it under an agreement that you'll use it properly.
Okay, so what's next steps, Faruq?
Right. Moving forward.
Next step is this. Let's bring your pen.
Hold on. I got a question about
No,
economics,
feel free to,
because we kind of didn't talk about economics at all.
Well, let me jump in real quick, if I may, brother, real quick before we speak
Matt
on
Turner, how
economics.
you doing, man?
I'm doing great, brother, and I appreciate everything you're doing, man. So I salute you. I'm definitely committed to this. My dream. My only thing is I wish you would not limit the and just let's do the whole damn state of Georgia. but that's another topic for another day. Let's start one step, the baby step. More specifically, with regard to economics, before we even get to that topic, I believe jurisdiction comes into play. Is the end goal to incorporate a municipal corporation and turn it into an actual city, or will it remain an unincorporated,
fact
within the counties? I'm curious about, because, water districts, property taxes, all of that, I would like control of that as well. And I think you can only get that, at least I know where I'm at, through municipal incorporation of some kind.
Well, brother Nat, the first part of the conversation had to deal with the legal abilities and our political opportunities in a place like Hancock County and why we chose that place. We chose that place to build because, like I said, it takes less than 1,300 people to vote in your own commissioner, less than 300 to vote in district commissioner. As far as water rights, all water that flows consistently throughout the state of Georgia, South Carolina, Tennessee, North Carolina, Virginia, state of New York, New Jersey, the entire eastern seaboard, as well as the center, is controlled by the Marine Corps of Engineers. There's no way to beat that. So those water sources are considered to be national resources, not local resources. There are swells of water in the ground which we tap into in order to bring up water for wells. Those are not controlled by anybody. You do not have to have a particular license or anything to dig a well. You get a little permit from the building commissioner, and the building commissioner in Hancock County is extremely friendly to us. There's a reason why we're there. There's another brother with a development, 90-acre development called Goshen, Hebrew Israelite brother, really good brother. Him and his 2 wives and their families down there. We're all in Hancock County for a reason. The unincorporated space in the county gives us the opportunity to go in and first just work with the people who need economic development. That's why they're giving us so much leeway. Plus, there's not that many laws, right? The building laws, they just took the building laws from the state of Georgia, and they didn't make a lot of adjustments to it. The building laws state of Georgia comes straight from the IBC, from the International Building Code. And so what we did is we traveled down to San Antonio. I traveled down there, and I met with the guys who write the ASTM codes for the IBC that actually demand the laws around how we build with our materials. So we actually influence the international laws for building with our materials. We do that now. I can tell you everyone who's sitting there writing those laws, right? So we impact that at the international level. Even when we built in Morocco, we sat down with the government of Morocco and explained to them the code so that we could build there, because we had created the code that impacts their code, because they all pick up the IBC. So as far as building codes, square, we're there. Our materials, our methods of building, pre-approved. We also have structural engineers sign off on our drawings so that we can do things the way we want to do things and keep on moving. We're building the same structures here. We're using our same materials here in Kazakhstan. The brothers, they thought it was, I had like 7 brothers with me when we went out to the Chinese border, and we were with a bunch of other people who were local, and we were with the president of that space. And I dug my hand in the ground, put the dirt into a bottle, shook it up with some water, and tested the dirt out there. And the brothers were looking at me like, what the hell is he doing? I said, I'm testing for our materials. I'm for our building material. And so that's that. First, I'm going to grab you. I want to make sure I answer Brother Nat's question completely. The second part of it was as far as municipality. So being in an unincorporated county is a very cool thing because you can get away with a lot, but you're right. It still puts you under, because the commissioner is an adjunct administrative body of the governor.
Right.
And the municipality actually has an independent charter from the commissioner.
Exactly.
One thing we need to understand about those charters, though, is they have to go through 2/3 approval in the House of Representatives and in the Senate of the state. And they have to be signed off by the governor. So you have a lot better chance at getting the municipality if you control the county, because that means that the resistance that you normally would face will have been died down and pushed down. And you would have created the internal structure necessary to actually push the municipality forward. But just remember that once you take that position, you don't just have the ability to create a single municipality. You're in a county. You control the whole county. So if you come down there with Freedom Village today and a brother come down there with, Superman Village tomorrow, we can incorporate it all. And that's the goal. The goal is to have this one place where multiple ideas can exist together, and our collective ideas will control that space, without interference from any of the powers that might otherwise interfere. It takes a lot to kick down the doors of a county or a city once you've established it. The Georgia Bureau of Investigation and the State Patrol don't just have the ability to walk in on the property of the county and the state. Even the governor himself has to gain permission from the commissioner. It's a very weird relationship
when you're finished.
in order to have state police come into that space. So that's about the legality, brother. That just to kind of cover it a little bit. And Sister Cairo jumping in after that. Brother Nat, did I answer your question though?
No, that was spot on, and that was my main concern. Because I'm in Florida, and I firsthand I got Eatonville right up the road from it. It's the oldest black municipality in the country, and it's kind of started off because it's surrounded by majority white-owned municipalities, and I was just in a majority white county, so they're able to kind of pull resources and start it off. So that was my main thing, but I could use that concern. So I'm solid. I'm good. I appreciate it.
Yeah. And I'm going to add to that to tell you that all the places that we work with internationally, those places are autonomous zones. So every autonomous zone we work in has its own independent government from the country. So we don't work in a space where we don't have the ability to create autonomy in our governing body.
I see. You pretty much that was my only concern. Your main source. You got that.
Got you. Sister Cairo, you were next. I want to make sure.
Okay, so 3 things, and I'll come really fast with this. One, you talked about jurisdiction. Are you a trust? Are you already set up as a trust? Or, and you talked about the municipalities. Because if you're a trust and you're a lodial trust, then you are the jurisdiction. 2, are you looking for investment? Can people from the outside come and contribute? You've had so many amazing products and projects around the globe for years, and just a huge fan of yours. Congratulations on all your success. But for people who are not coming to live, is there a possibility that they could contribute to your efforts and just be a contributor and somehow or another make some kind of give them some sort of access to the village? And then 3, what is your long-term intention for this project? Let's say 5, 10 years from now. What's the long-term intention for this? And I yield.
Real quick, let me just try to hit a couple of those, but I also want to back up a little bit because I'm not sure I answered Sister Munchie, other sisters' questions around next steps. Let me make sure I do that because I don't want to trample over that. Plus, I'm going to be real. I have until the beginning of the workday, which is an hour, 2 hours from now, to continue the conversation. I'm more than willing to do so, but I'm sensitive that we're in an hour, so I want to make sure I answer the critical questions within the space of the time that some people might have allotted or not have allotted. The next steps is this: put together your 10 people. Put together your 10 people. And I mean 10 people that are not on the fence, 10 people that are saying, I am willing to pack up right now. I am willing to put everything and drop everything. I am willing to pool our resources within the next month, 2 months, 3 months, whatever. Here's my move date. Maybe it's 6 months away even, right? But we got a plan to that move date, right? I got a solid plan on, we calculated how many resources, and if you need help with the calculations, if you're serious, I will help you create the plan to the core. I will work day and night with you in order to do it. That is a promise. But if you're serious and you want to make that plan and you have your transition plan in place, the next step is to put those 10 people in 9 little boxes, 10 little boxes, just like we are right now, inside of a call. And let's start having the conversation about building your transition plan and then the level of agreement necessary between us, that we are comfortable with accessing each other's resources and working together towards this goal. That is the absolute next step. And the only way you have to engage that is just simply send me a text, send me a message in Messenger, and I'm ready. Let's do it. Like, I mean, literally, please don't think there's any kind of like, thing in between. Just shut. We can move. We move people. We do people, So, and Sister Miriam, she over there grinning because she knows that we like jump folks. We not jump folks. Before Sister Sarah, I'm about to answer your question right now. I think you were there, ma'am. You were there when we did the retreat out there.
Yeah.
Okay. Yep. So ma'am had the opportunity to see another sister. I'm not gonna mention her name. And she got up after that 1-2 weeks. It just literally she came out to a 2-day class to see what it was like to really pound out a foundation, to dig 4 feet into the ground, mix that dirt, and then pound the foundation for a house back in by hand. She got up and she was like, I had all these dreams of coming out as a super strong black woman, boom, boom, boom. And I thought that we could do this. I was gonna bring my crew up. But y'all need men. Y'all need a bunch of young men to come do this work. This is too dang on hard. This is too hard. I just don't want to do this. She broke down, man. And my 15-year-old daughter looked at her and was like, "Stop crying and just work harder."
I remember that. Oh my God.
So I'm just saying that I want to, just in case anyone has to bail off the call, I want to make sure I address that. That is the next step. But come serious, man. I'm telling you, this work is not easy. No, it will test people to their breaking points. And I'm telling you, you will find either the best brothers and sisters you ever met in your life, and you will bring the best out of them, or you will bring the worst out of them. Right. And you will find out exactly why. Why? And it's a reality. I have my brother Ayman is up there working in coal country. And out in coal country, them white boys that are out there working have only 2 options for a job. 2. I'm serious. They work in the Michelin factory. Here's what they do. They go inside and clean out the molds that make the tires. The mold is 475 degrees when they step in the mold. Most of them boys lose the soles of their shoes the first time they step in there because they melt underneath their feet. This is them white boys up there in space. My brother's working with these guys every day. Then the other job of grace, the amazing thing that you can do with your life, is go work in the coal mine. And they know for a fact that the coal mine is going to give them black death at some point. Their lungs are going to fill with black powder and they will die horrible deaths. They'll spend the whole later part of their life coughing crap up and dying and everything else. Do you know that those boys look at us and they say, when you approach them and say, "Hey, yo, we building our own. I'm working a tractor." I've had them boys jump under our tractor and be like, "Yo, let's work." Racist, cut chewing dudes, man. But once they realize you're willing to work, they see you as a brother. It's crazy. I'm telling you, it's the craziest thing. But when they believe that you are people that will bail from having to do for yourself, man, they hate you because of that. They hate you because of that. They don't dislike you. They hate you. That they families are dying in them coal mines. And I ain't talking about these crackers, these privileged crackers doing what they're doing. I'm talking about these white boys that are in the same dirt, the ones that when we came over with these other knuckleheads that brought us from Europe, they were out there in the fields with us before the courts decided that they somehow were better than us. Right? So I'm telling you, you got to be serious to put in this work. It's real. It's real work. Now, Sister Kyra, I'll explain that the 3 questions that you asked, and I'm testing the memory of my 42-year-old brain. And remember each of the questions, so forgive me. The long-term goal, I work with a guy that I met. I went to the UN conference in Marrakesh, which came right after the Paris deal, which was the climate change conference in the United Nations. I try to make sure that we're part of the international conversation. And I took my daughter, and we set up a platform for Freedom Village in Marrakesh at the UN Conference of Action for Climate Change. And when we were there, I met with a guy who's the head of the Eco Villages Network, the Global Eco Villages Network. What he has been able to do, we are the only Black village part of the Eco Villages Network. We are the only one in the world that's African American. He has been establishing a seat, an official seat at the United Nations for eco villages. Our long-term plan is to have an autonomous nation where we have the absolution to decide our own future at every single level, where we negotiate every relationship, we negotiate every single thing we do. We're here in this country building relationships to the presidential level. And we've been working this way in other countries for a long time. In the United States, we use that leverage to do what Malcolm wasn't able to complete, right? And that was getting our issues on the international stage to put pressure on our own country to ensure our protection and our guidance, right? So we're working to create these autonomous structures that have a single way of working with one another and a concept of excellence that can connect themselves around the world, so our kids grow up in a completely different reality.
Right.
That's the long-term plan, and we would hope that, well, not hope. The good thing is that this work is a crucible. This work literally weeds out the people that are unable and unwilling to make strong commitments of excellence. So the prayer is that we commit the next 10 years to building some of these villages, and the next 20 years to expanding that in our capacity, and then the next 30 years establishing an actual legal authority internationally for those people who've made those commitments. And that's a true path to true freedom. And ain't nobody got to protest after that. You come and you mess with us, you get put down, no matter who you are. So that's the way you should be. And you don't just get put down by us, you get put down by us, cousin, neighbor, everybody who benefits from us will put you down. That's that's the same way Switzerland has stood so long with no military. Costa Rica has no military. And the reason why is because, for example, in Costa Rica, you have almost every variety of plant in the world growing down there. People use it for all kinds of reasons. In Switzerland, you have a control over the money. Jew boys or not, it doesn't make a difference what they are. They establish themselves in such a way where they don't have to lift a gun to put you down. So it's about establishing that kind of power and reality for us forever. That's the long-term goal.
Greetings.
Greetings, Brother Noble.
How you doing, brother?
I'm doing good.
I commend you for what you're doing. It's a beautiful thing. It's very beautiful. I just have a couple questions. So now you said, where's the place that the land is? The 250,000 acres?
Our 250,000 acres is in a place called Bayanao, just short of the province of Pavlodar, inside of Kazakhstan. Kazakhstan is the 7th largest country in the world by landmass, and it's situated in the center of the Silk Road. And I'm just going to give a little piece of that to understand that 75% of all traffic that goes between Asia and Africa comes through Kazakhstan.
Okay, I think I know where that's at. So you said oh, pardon me.
No. This was one of the seats. People don't understand this. The reason that Asians and Africans had very good relations, you don't have any history of big, huge wars between Asians and African countries, is because places like Kazakhstan existed for them to come together and work with one another historically. It was colonialism that destroyed the Silk Road as a necessity for its existence. So the reestablishment of the Silk Road is a necessity for our uprising, and that's why we're here.
So now you already had an establishment in Georgia, was that correct?
In Hancock County, we have the establishment, but you know what, Brother Noble, you're asking questions like the FBI, man.
Well, no, I'm asking for a serious reason.
I'm sorry, brother, I'm messing with you. But
you can be your American extension, because
we never left the United States, but I got 5 kids still in the United States. I got 185 family members, Muslim family members in the U.S. that are still working. We're not light anywhere. Our family now, just in the last 15 years, we have family members in 7 countries. You know, I mean, I have actual kids from Turkey.
You
I
might be
have
my cousin.
dog Ghana. Hey man, listen, we're not playing with this, man. This is our life. This is our life.
Right.
And the United States is always our home.
Well, you were talking about jurisdiction earlier. And this is one of the things that I deal with. So number one, land patents. You ever heard of those?
You said land patents?
Yep. Land grants and land patents. You ever heard of those?
Mm-hmm. I have.
All right. So those alone here in America, I don't use the term United States because that's a whole nother story, but for the sake of the conversation, here is actually where all Aborigines across the globe look like this. It don't matter. America, Australia, Europe, the whole likes, ain't no such thing as Europe. We'll get on that another day. All Aborigines look like us everywhere across the globe. All right. We already have a seat in the UN, seat 21593. The Empress of Washita established that for us. I'm not a Moor. You see that name? That's the name that I had a long time ago when I was dealing with that mindset. I just never changed it because I'm not going to change it. However, I do know that my mama told me who I was. My grandmama told me who I was. And I discovered something in all of my trials and tribulations. So Black people, the term Black and Africans, you're not going to have any rights when it comes to paper. That's just a fact. All right. I'm not, and Moors, you don't have any rights as a Moor either. A lot of these Moors are doing stuff. No offense. I hope I'm not stepping on anybody's toes. But you do have rights as being what the definition of American is. And that only applies to us. So in regards to jurisdiction of things, if you had some establishments here, we could extend or actually aid in the one that you have here right now. Because I can't leave this place. I will come visit y'all because I want to see that 250,000 acres, but we're about to acquire more than that here. And it would be within our jurisdiction. Like with all this stuff going on, where everyone's witnessing is just a tearing down of one system. We just have a small window of opportunity for those of us who are in the know, quote unquote, to step up and do what needs to be done. So my sister invited me here tonight because we literally had a conference call last night about doing the same thing, except we have people in a bunch of different industries, farming, finances, all of that stuff. So we would like to work with you all if that's at all possible. And maybe we can learn from each other because I like it. The cashless society makes more sense because that's where you have conflict, greed, jealousy, and all that other nonsense.
Brother Noble, I think you came to the conversation late.
I did.
Because this conversation is about the land that we already own in Hancock County, Georgia. We are already we are literally the largest Black brick makers in the United States right now. Okay, we already have mills on the ground. We've already dedicated years to working in this direction. We have stores of food and laboratory and a sustainable lab in Atlanta, along with other properties out there in Hancock County, which we've established in the earlier part of the conversation, has the conditions that allow us to very easily colonize the entire county and create our own municipalities. The conversation here is more about those people who are willing to commit, like seriously commit up to at minimum 10 people to go out and work the land and build their own space. And we are
Hancock County?
Yeah, in Hancock County. We're giving away the land, and we're giving away the land to the brothers based on a contractual agreement that they will actually build what they claim. And it's not a thing to hold them. If they fail in 3 years, maybe the idea is that there is proportionate success, meaning that if you spent 3 years somewhere, that you have 3 years worth of actual effort on the ground at the end of that 3 years. So we're at the point now where we are looking for those people who are far beyond the conversation and 100% into putting their hands in the ground and going out and tackling this challenge for real. We have built all the tools. We spent $500,000 of our own money to build tools and to travel around the world to get educations and certifications that allow us to build the structures. And we're willing to support those individuals who can gather those 10 people and maintain that commitment to actually work. We are in the extreme action phase. We just have
we
to
have
work
more
with
than
multiple
10 people
at once.
that's willing to do that right now, and the financing and the other resources is what I'm
So the
attempting to
second level,
convey.
yeah, the second level is this, because I'm going to be really fair. We've been doing this long enough and pushing ourselves out there. We've heard a lot from a lot of brothers and sisters, a lot of folks, man. But I'm telling you, and like I said, Miriam, I'm going to keep leaning back on you because I know you were out there. She knows and she saw what it's like to have people truly apply themselves to this effort. And we have been to not a couple, hundreds of communities around the world, hundreds of communities around the world where we have seen what happens when people jump in, head in. We were in one community where almost 1,000 people showed up to work the first day. Within the first 2 years, they were down to 40. Okay,
I can believe that.
So carrying a 50-pound bucket of dirt and doing that every 10 minutes for 8 hours straight, 10 hours straight, because you ain't working for the man, you're working for yourself, which means you're going to work twice as hard and twice as long.
So you're going to exempt them from using machines?
No, it's not about being exempt from using machines. The work is the work. You can, when you're really working with the earth, when you take that backhoe or that bowl constrictor, there are limitations to the bucket size. There is only so much you can do. You can carry the dirt so far. But when you have to load it into a cement mixer, you need to do it by hand. There's no other way. Brother Todd is over here. He's a construction worker. He can tell you can put all the machines you want on the ground. Them brothers that's out there working better be strong, and they better know how to throw a shovel, right? And you're going to be working some serious shovel hours. There is no way around it. And this is what separates those who do the work from those who talk about the work. That level of commitment that requires you to do that every day is amazing. And it is a lot.
We've already actually been training ourselves to do that. That's why, I mean, what you're doing is right in line. So I do have more than 10 people who's not afraid to work. I mean,
but I think beyond the financial aspects, Faruq, and I think beyond the physical labor, I want to definitely drive home the point that the commitment to actually being there, and seeing slow progress, sometimes no progress, sometimes rained out progress, sometimes machinery that's broken or breaks progress, sometimes illness progress, sometimes somebody got pregnant progress. Like, I mean, just everything being out there and consistently and committed to being not selfish and not having and being bored or being hungry or not eating what you're used to or not I mean, you got the internet out there and everything but the comforts of your normal everyday 3-bedroom 2-bath 1,500 square foot house, Netflix and chill, all the whole nine, like it doesn't exist for a while. It doesn't exist. And to be there with sometimes strangers.
Right.
These are people that may not have been in love with all your life, like they're just people who have committed just now to an idea, to an ideal, but they have to be like, they have to have your back in every way. If people start complaining about food first, they'll start complaining about comfort next, they'll start complaining about finances or missing this or missing that, and that commitment wanes 6 months, a year, 2 years, or maybe even right before a project is finished. You got people trying to bow out. And it's just the level of commitment, I think everybody should know when you're out there in that rural type of environment, even if you were in a house, even if you were renting a house, and you all decided to rent a house and then go every single day 2 miles down the road to work. There's no perimeter mall out there.
Right.
There's no Spaghetti Junction out there. There's no, I'm just gonna waltz into the halal meat store and do some shopping out there. And I think that level of commitment, everybody has to realize it has to be essential to every single day. I've been out there off grid for months. And if you don't have each other's back, it will fail.
I mean, I totally get that. I'm telling you, I do have some people who's already in tune with that particular frequency already. And we also have some other resources, but we'll talk offline in regards to that. I'll reach out to you on Facebook, brother.
I got you. So we have some direct next steps, and like I said, I want to hit them once more time, and then I'm gonna start winding the call down. But the direct next steps is, I hope that none of what was said is discouraging. That wasn't the intention. The intention is to encourage our necessity to create and build for ourselves, but it is also to create a level setting of reality of what you might be committing to. And the fact that you would not be the first person to overcommit without understanding the true commitment to the long-term commitment necessary to actually make it work. We need this. We have to do this. Or in my opinion, like literally, if you're not willing to put in the work to change something for real, right? For real, if you come in your kitchen and your oven is broken and all your cakes come out nasty, regardless of how good you put them in, but you don't want to go out and buy a new stove or a new oven, you just want to complain about it. You ain't willing to sit there with a tool set and break the whole stove down and change out the elements. Then I'm going to come in your kitchen and I'm going to ask you a question. I'm going to say, hey, why does cake burn? You say, oh, because the oven broke. And that stupid oven, blah, 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 blah. This oven, I got up this morning, I protested on the oven. I sat on the oven. I put a sign on the oven that said all cakes matter. And the oven didn't listen to me. and you do that, I'm going to say, why don't you go out and do the work necessary to change the oven? Or better yet, let me bring my tools over here and we can fix the oven. And you say, no, I don't have time for that. Then what the next logical thing I'm going to say out my mouth? Stop complaining then. You don't have a right to complain if you're not willing to fix the problem. And sitting around asking other people who already told you they hate us to have enough concern to help us, it's crazy. It's literally insane. So we have to fix our own problem. We have to do it. And there's a lot of pain in abandoning the work that we did in the country. A lot of these cities, you can see your father, your grandfather built, put up the power lines and everything else, but we don't own it. So we need to put the same level of energy into something we own. So this is to encourage a true solution. But it's also to tell you that whatever work we've done to this point has not gotten us anything closer to the solution. We have to make that commitment. So anyone who's willing to get those 10 people necessary to make it a reality, you have my full support in land, tools, and any other resources I can sum up for you to help you succeed. But you must show that you are willing to make the same level of commitments that are being given to you. And if you have that and you have those 10 people, then inbox me in Facebook. Tell me that you're ready for the meeting. Put those people on the line. Let's create a real agreement. And I am going to ask you to legally bind yourself to your outcomes. Okay, and then and because if we give the land and our resources, and we're doing that so you'll be successful. If you abandon that before you're successful, we want to have compensation for what we lost, which is the ability to help somebody else. So and that's real. That's just real talk. This is not I don't believe so little in my people that I would give them a pity party. I believe enough in my people that I can deal with them like men and women of excellence and respect, that we can create deals and we can depend on each other to be successful with the things we commit ourselves to. So that is there. So like I said, I really appreciate everybody taking the time. I wanted to address this. I've been tossing my little comments out on Facebook, and I get all kinds of. I actually appreciate when people come back nasty at me. It makes me happy. I get my entertainment. I be, like, oh, let me get at you, because not because I just like conflict, but because I like telling our people it takes more than what you're doing to fix this problem, and you need to be more realistic about fixing the problem instead of blaming people. That's not the way. They can be the enemy. That's fine. But ain't no enemy ever been able to take down a strong group of people. No army weaker than another army was ever able to conquer an army that was actually stronger than them. Even if it was a smaller army, smaller numbers. Okay, so the strong win. So we have to become stronger. So if there's any more questions, I'll stay online as long enough to answer them. But I do want to actually put a close to the actual structure and say that this is what this is. This is the offer. That is the space. This is the plan. We are open to those ready to work. And yes, 10 minutes minimum.
Yes. I was just gonna say that's the bare minimum just to get started.
But they just can't, don't be trying to do your nails while you're out there working with that dirt. they gonna break. I'm telling you right. So Sister Moochie, you might break your nails now.
My nails can come off. Don't talk about it. I get down. I work with my hands, so.
Yeah, 10 men is definitely minimal. I like how he's saying 10 men, but.
Hey, I have a question. All right, so once the agreement is sealed and we get on the land, the process, we just get on the land, set up our tents and RVs and go to work and just start building. That's what it is.
That's what it is. We have 7 tents. Each tent is 250 square feet. We built them out of frames and we covered them with a weatherproof duck cloth, which is a military style duck cloth. And I can tell you, my kids went out there and they built those platforms. They chopped the trees down and cleared that area for the campsite already. The natural growth of pine is pretty rapid, and especially of white oak. So what happens is like if you leave the property and no one works it for even up to 6 months, you'll have these small trees grow up immediately. So when you go out there, you clean up the property, you open it up, the equipment is out there. So we already did the shelter. We shipped in all the equipment from Brazil that we went down and brought in Brazil. Part of the process, like I said, you have to think of a transition plan. Go ahead and say, hey, all right, what are we out here to do? And before you head out to the property, I can give you all of the layouts of the land. We can design the house that'll work for you. The house, like you say, hey, I want to build in a communal structure. We'll design a communal structure. You say, I want to build independent structures. We'll design independent structures. I'll even tell you the limits of the building, like what you can get away with without having to get a permit. There's some little tricks to that too. Or you can just get a permit. The plan for the structure that we started breaking ground on right now is a 54,000 square foot institute. We've already started working on that, right? So anyone who goes out there will have another plan that they say, hey, I want to build over here, over here, over here, over here, and we'll work all that out. The first thing you want to do is dig your own well. Right. And that is probably the biggest expense that you'll pay is $6,000. There's no way around this. The water is about 180, sometimes even 300 feet down. There's nothing you watch on YouTube that's going to get you that low. And I'm saying that from experience. I'm not saying that critical. I'm saying from experience. They come out with a sonogram and they find the swells of water in the ground and they tap that for you and they guarantee you water. The water pressure is 250 gallons per minute, I think, per minute that comes up out of the ground. So it's 250 gallons per minute, or it's 250 gallons. I'm trying to remember the exact numbers, but anyway, it's an extreme sufficient water pressure. It literally gushes out the ground. You have to cap it not to. So you don't have to need an extra pump, whatever. You put a pump there just for backup, but you don't need it in order to gain water pressure. And you can do anything with the water that comes out of the well. If you got well water and you got we already have the living spaces, you want to bring your barrels of food and everything else and store that up. you cut out your kitchen area, and you start setting up a basic civilized area. And then once you basically start civilizing that area, you start doing like things like elevating where you bathe, elevating where you poop, you know, doing all that kind of stuff and reconditioning those structures so that you can do that. And as you're doing that, you start making brick and milling lumber so that you can then start building your foundations, building up your walls, tossing up your roofs, and then start designing your structure. You dedicate a man to making furniture. And then once you start building the furniture, you keep going. We had 17 miles of fiber optic cable ran out to that property. There's internet access out there. And there's also access to electricity, which I say use as a temporary stopgap. So we put 2 poles from Georgia Power out there on the property as a stopgap to go ahead and provide power to temporary structures. But then after that, you want to see if you can transition to your own power development. But initially, it gets you right into the mix, and you can start doing what you need to do.
Right. Does it rain a lot down there?
Georgia, precipitation in Georgia is I think it's like what 30%, something like that, 25, 30%. It's decent. There's a significant amount of rain for growing and stuff.
All right. What do you think about rainwater harvesting? Have you ever thought of that as an option?
We harvest rainwater out there already.
Okay.
What we did is we cut a bunch of those same pickle barrels and we put mesh over the top. We cut a hole in it, put mesh in it, 2 layers of mesh to filter out all the stuff that would fall into the water. And then we tapped it on the backside of a collection system, and we put several of them up there. On the days that it does rain, it's great. But when you go without rain, you're in trouble. You've got a moving water creek, which 1.5 miles of it is on the property. So what you can do, moving water is pretty much free of a lot of contaminants, especially moving water that runs over rocks. So you can pull that and create a basic filtration system. Your basic filtration system will be grabbing river rock, coarse river sand, which is all over the place in that place, and then you grab some fine sand and you put it in the base, and then you take some black charcoal. So you just cut your hardwood, burn it down, char it. Once you char it, break the charcoal up, and then put it in the base of that filter. Get yourself some big 2-inch pipes and run them back and run the water through those filters that come from the lake, and you'll have drinking water in abundance. But that's one way. But seriously, you need a well, because you need a well.
I was gonna ask. Right. I was gonna ask if a well had been tapped. I remember that was like one of our initial things that you wanted to do out there was tap a well immediately, but I wasn't sure if anything came of tapping.
Yeah, the developments that out there before, they did successfully filter the river water enough to create a good standard of living while they were working. So they didn't have a reason to do it just yet, but it was literally, we had to do it. And I'll tell you what happened. Like I said, we put 15 people out there before. We trained them through a 6-week boot camp, everything else. And they fell apart. But what they fell apart on was, you know, I remember having a conversation even with my own daughter. She told me straight up, she said, you know, Abu, I really believe in this. I really want to do this, but I think I can have some stuff right now. And I want stuff right now. It broke my heart, right? That with instant gratification from actually fulfilling something that would really help her. And I'm gonna tell you, every person out there had the same problem. After a while, the idea of not having instant gratification, having to go through so much to prepare each thing, it was too much for them. And they bailed on that. A couple other brothers were willing to stick it, but then they had other problems, right? They had kids and a wife or two that abandoned them, and they had to run after their wife and their kids, you know. Then I'm not mentioning names. Brother, he thought that he was the kind of person that could do this, but really he was just the kind of person who liked to move around from one thing to the next. So he felt uncomfortable sticking anywhere for an extended period of time, you know. And he was honest, like, brother, I got to keep moving. I realized that I didn't have an obsession with self-sustainability. I had an obsession with sustainability as I moved. And so he didn't want to settle. You know, some people aren't settlers. You know, then all the young people, with the exception of 2, and I'm going to say these 2, my son and Brother Daniel Muhammad. Brother Daniel Muhammad jumped on the boat when I went and spoke in Chicago. He came to me and he never left. He's at the Freedom Lab now, and he works every day doing this work. He is one of the great resources that we have. And my son, Muhyiddin, he stuck in it. He got married along the way, life hit him, and he tried to accommodate, like just wanting to build something for his wife quickly and then return back to it. So life can hit you in a tough way while you're going through this process.
You said you had a brother that was living there already. How does he monetize? How do you make money out there? How does that work?
Dan, okay, listen. Dan probably watches this something, so he know I love him to death. Dan could do more because Dan has the mill sitting right there. When I was there, I built my own custom furniture. Right? I mean, I cut a poplar tree and I dry out a 2-inch thick poplar boards and then make them into tables. I got a 10-foot desk inside the office in Freedom Lab that we built, and we got all the shelving that we built out of one poplar tree. So there's a million opportunities. You know, even at Freedom Lab, we have machines that will extract oil from any kind of seed. We have, you can do anything. We in the Freedom Lab, we have everything. We got packaging. It all depends on the person, right? It depends on the person and how they have the desire to build it. Because the other challenge is, if you've never started your own business and managed it to a very successful and sustainable level. Let me say that, because a lot of people say, I started my own business before. No. I mean, managed it for years, maybe decades, at a sustainable level where you know what it takes to build the type of business. Then you will have that challenge in the midst of the other challenge. And so one doesn't denote the other. One doesn't, because you can create doesn't mean that you can sell, doesn't mean that you can build an organization. So you'll have to cross those learning curves. But the opportunities, you got all the tools out there. You can make, I mean, even if you just go out there and you drop, we've got natural cedars, which I'm saying don't cut the cedars because there's not that many of them. But cut down one of those white oaks and peel that white oak into a 1.5-inch board, clean it down and connect it and make those live edge tables. They sell for $5,000 a pop. You know, you just got to be out there, just turn it over. But brother Lambert, you probably know what it means from a construction standpoint to set up a production line, you know, to get people working consistently and with consistent output. Anybody who has that skill and that experience can just look around and see what it takes to monetize their efforts.
So,
right.
There are 3 of us here who are in Texas, Noble and Dr. Brown. We're in Texas. So the reason I asked you, is there a component where people can participate without being there? Is there a way that we can support, or is there a way that people can contribute and participate in the growth, or can we bring investors, or is there a way to maybe hire a team and send them out there? Is there a way for people who are not in the location itself to contribute to what you are doing to support it?
So at Freedom Village, Georgia, the level for investment, we have not prepared an investment package for that. I would say that the best way for anyone who does not want to actually be on the ground doing the work to involve themselves is 2 ways. And it both has to do with what kind of work you do outside, right? So if you're working outside, then the product of that work should be capital. And so that capital, and where you put that capital, I can tell you 2 things. One, as far as Freedom Village, Georgia, like I said before, it's an opportunity zone. What does that mean? That means that if you find, like if these 10 brothers or 10 brothers and sisters, I don't want to isolate my sisters. So 10 brothers and sisters come together.
Thank you.
I really want to be clear. I just say brothers because I'm used to saying it because I'm a brother. That's all. But 10 brothers and sisters come together and they create this workforce. Then the idea would be that they should create an investment package. Now, I will say that whatever they create is a benefit to you. You should develop a real investment contract with them. It should not just be a gift. And when you develop that real investment opportunity, maybe the idea is that they build your house for you, right? So you say, I'm going to buy my house from these 10 brothers. When they build their 10 houses, they're going to build house number 11 for me. They put a cost to that house. You give them a down payment on the house. They use the down payment to fund their existing efforts. And then as you make payments on the house, you say, I'm going to pre-make payments on the house monthly for you, right? Maybe it's just a small amount monthly throughout the 5-10 years that you guys are working. And as I make these payments, I'm securing my house in that land because I decided not to go down there, but I still want the lifestyle. So I'm going to pay for that. And but the people who receive that, as well as the people who give that, need to understand that it is an investment and it is a payment. And when that contract is not fulfilled, there is a payment for not fulfilling that contract. So my suggestion is, though, if you're going to build your retirement home, trust in a group, work with that 10, find that 10, become number 11, 12, 13, 14, and 15 to the 10, and be their funders. But don't be their funders as in, I'm just going to give you some cash. No, say y'all going down there to build the life for us and you. And while you build those extra 5 homes for us, we're going to give you down payment. That pays for your food, takes care of your economics, right? Brother Lambert, this is, and brother New Kingdom, this is a perfect surefire way. Sister Munchi, Sister Shanika, this is a surefire way. You just have to say that I absolutely will not fail. Because the truth is now, if you screw that money over, those 5 people coming after you. They're going to sue you. And they're going to try to take from you. They're going to try to garnish your wages. Why? Because you took something that was precious to them and you squandered it. So they're coming for you. That's real, right? They're coming for you. And they're going to use the same systems we're trying to escape to get you. And that's real. That's real life. I ain't going to sell you no false dreams. That's real. But it's a very real plan if you can establish the trust. That means you'll do it. It's a very solid thing. And here's the coolest part. Because it's the opportunity zone, if you do not take that money back or try to sell your house within that 10 years, you might want to just get the house built and sell it to somebody else who wants to live out there. Then you have no taxes on that property. If you leave it in there and you rent the property out, then you'll never pay taxes on the rental. That's what the opportunity zone does for you. And all of Hancock County is an opportunity zone. So that's a real mechanism that the 10 can use to solicit investment from 11, 12, 13 through 1,000. The second point is that here in Kazakhstan and in a couple other places where we're proposing freedom villages, we've actually already done this setup as well. So we reduced the cost of investment down to like $18 a square foot. And we set up the plans in such a way where you put in $18 a square foot, you buy the house, and the government has given us a PPP program, a public-private partnership, where they actually purchase from us at $50 a square foot. So as soon as we throw a Freedom Village house here, we don't even have to get the kitchen sink in. We just got to have the pipes coming out the wall. They give us $50 per square foot for every 1,000 square foot unit. So you can either buy your own spot, or you can invest in it and keep pushing the movement forward. And we sell it back to you at $32 a square foot, but you put in 18 and you collect the other 18 on the backside when it does the sale, which is as soon as the walls are finished. So
Quick question.
that's another way to involve yourself.
Quick question. The building materials, I guess, because I know you have the what is that? You got a mill saw. Obviously, you have to have a kiln. Because the wood takes a long time, so you got all of these things. So you're expecting to make these houses out of preset materials, but a lot of people, I guess, they're going different routes in terms of building. So like shipping containers. So talk to me about how you feel about certain things, or are you looking for? I don't want to say cookie cutters, but if everything's made out of bricks, everything's made out of blocks, everything's made from, I guess, the same type of lumber, then we're going to be dealing in like, I guess, custom design homes and that type of thing. So talk to me about the materials, I guess, and I guess the leeway that you have, if any, on the materials.
So brothers can choose their own materials to do what they feel like they need to do. So if you build with sticks instead of bricks, that's fine. But you have to understand that when you're accessing your own resources, you have to make your stuff stretch as far as possible. There's a lot more dirt in the earth to work with than there are trees standing on top of it. So
Absolutely.
when the problem with building a lumber framed home is that once you build the frame, you have to cover the frame and insulate the frame.
Right.
And because you have to insulate the frame, you either have to go and buy external insulation and drop it in the walls, or you have to collect materials from the land like hay and other things, which it might not, or pine needles, and it might not be enough to create the amount of insulation that you need for
That's
the
how you go
amount
with block.
of build. You know what I mean? So it's a calculation. We didn't choose bricks because it was just cool. It was a extremely deliberate calculation as to what we had access to. So we have this one plan, brother, called the eye wall, and the eye wall is a deep joint. It's got one of these basements in it. That's an eye level basement, and when you stand in it, you can look out the window. So the actual basement is only like 4 feet tall, and it's 2 feet above.
Right.
I think it's 5 feet tall, right? So the reason why is because the foundation of the house displaces the proper amount of cubic meters of earth to build the house.
Right.
And then you build the house with 18-inch walls. So you basically put a 3-course brick structure there. Why? Because when you deal with the brick, these bricks have small holes in them. They have 2 holes in them. They're interlocking bricks. We run the brick and we create the corner beams, and then we run the brick in this first course, and we establish rebar in each corner. We run a bond beam every 8 feet of wall. So we run one at 1 foot, and we run another at 8 feet, and every 8 feet top over, because that's code. Code is run the bond beam every 8 feet, and then we run a vertical beam of rebar every 4 feet throughout the structure. So what you end up having is a brick structure, but if you were to peel it back, it's really like a concrete reinforced structure. But it goes up really quick because drop these bricks down, each hole lays over the next hole. So the hole in the brick actually acts as the framework to hold the concrete in place. So you don't have to wait for the concrete to cure before you toss another level on the building. You can just keep rolling. And so it's a quick method.
So do you fill those walls with concrete?
So no, we build the walls with the brick, but then we reinforced rebar enforced concrete. But it's not concrete. We're using mortar. So we're using the earthen concrete, which is made from
there you go. Okay.
So we're using a 5
to
10% cement density on our cement and our mortar mixes. And our bricks have 6% to 7% cement mixed in with 65% sand and 25% 25% clay. And we compress that under 15,000 pounds of pressure and allow it to cure for an entire month before using the brick. It's a very industrial product. As a matter of fact, in Brazil, they outlawed fire brick. And they're using these types of bricks, which they call ecological bricks down there in that space, not CSEB. They call them ecological bricks. They're using them almost exclusively to build huge complexes. The other thing is the lumber. Lumber, you have to do this like the French and the Italians used to do. What they used to do when they used to build these big churches, they used to grow the tree. They used to actually grow the tree while they were building the building. And then when the building got to the point where it needed the roof, the tree was big and they cut it and then they lay it out and use it. It takes 12 years to build. So it was funny when I went to some of these places and I saw what they did. But what you do is you schedule your work where you do timber cutting and milling first. Then what you do is you buy plastic, or you can go ahead and build a wood structure that will be for drying your wood. And when you build that not a wood structure, but you can build a brick structure for that. So actually your first structure is just the infrastructure you need to process your materials.
Right.
And when you drop your timber in there, it takes between 1 to 2 months to get
cure.
To cure. I'm losing my words right now. Southern pine, right? Southern pine actually dries out pretty quick. You just have to make sure it doesn't warp while it dries out. So you have to weigh it in space and put spacers on it, and you can stack them high. And you'd be amazed if you've got a tree with a 30-inch circumference around, I mean, a 30-inch diameter, right? For every 10 feet of that tree, you can get 100 2x4s out. And so when you do that, you lay it out, you process it, and then you go start making your brick. So while you're making your brick, your timber is curing. Or the other way around, you start making your brick, and your brick has to cure for a month because you have to have the process of the expansion of the cement that reinforces the structure of the brick. So while you're curing the brick, you're cutting the timber, and then you start curing the timber while you go and start building with the brick that just finished off. So it's just about making sure your production complements each other.
So what do you think about, because you were saying about sustainability? So yeah, I guess since this whole trade war, situation, there's a ton of those containers just sitting around, and I guess I had some previous ideas about maybe using some of those in building, and then you're starting to see a lot of them pop up, here in the city. I wouldn't say a lot, but when you see them, they're noticeable. You know what I mean? So what do you think about that?
Corrugated steel has almost zero insulation properties.
So real quick, because when I met you, at the time I didn't have the machine, but now I do spray foam insulation. Like I have the machine. It's like $80,000 worth of equipment. So I come, and we just launched, incorporated, I want to say 2 weeks ago. So the insulation part, like I understand that 100%, because if it's hot, it's hot. If it's cold, it's cold. You know what I mean? But with the spray foam, you can insulate anything that traditional insulation wouldn't insulate.
I agree with you. I agree. So like, let's say that you've calculated the cost of spray foam to build all the structure you want to build, and you have to build with containers. The reason that I kind of went away from containers is because the square foot cost of building with a container was equal to the square foot cost of building with the brick. There was no cost reduction at all. And you start to think about speed, but speed was compromised because, like I said, when you build with sticks, right? Because what you're going to do is you're going to take the container. You have a restriction to the width of the container. You only got 8 feet that you're doing with 8.5 feet. So no one lives in an 8.5 feet structure, so they want to expand it by at least 2 containers, right? You're going to have to take your saw and cut out a whole wall. And you're going to retain your the good thing about it is that most of those containers come with steel beam structures that are every 8 feet spaced out internally. And then you have on the base, you have just a steel structure with a plywood base. So the plywood base, you could do wood paneling that you create from the mill anyway to compensate for that. You're still going to have to elevate it or put it on a foundation regardless, because otherwise it'll sink down over time with its live load. So there's as you're building with those containers, you start to realize really quick that your savings are minuscule. Your time savings are minuscule, your cost savings are minuscule, and that's when you start to suffer, because you still got to use sheetrock if you're going to cover your insulated framed walls internally. And then when you use sheetrock, that means that if you put 2x4s instead of 2x6s on the internal structure, then you're going to lose 8 inches from your already too slim space that you have inside anyway. And actually going to lose more than 8 inches. You're going to lose 10 because of the thickness of the sheetrock as well as the thickness of the 2x4s. So that's those calculations and understanding the restrictions, limitations. Whereas I know that I can mill a 14-foot 4x, like I would mill a 4x just for measure. I'd measure a 4x8, right? If I melt a 4x8 beam, then I can run a 4x8 beam between a pillar and a wall, right? I can do a wall, a pillar, and I can go 14 feet in between and run that beam, that solid beam across, and then reconnect it across, and then I can run rafters in between there and create a second floor, or I can create a roof. then I know I have these massive expanses. You know, not massive. 14 feet is not massive, but it's really nice. You can create some really beautiful structures with that. And then if you're using pillars, you can open it up in very creative ways with the design of the house. I would rather have that flexibility with designing the homes than have the restrictions that the containers, and also the containers also put a machine requirement on you. You have to have a crane on site to handle those containers and drop them in place.
Yes.
So that crane means that you're renting what otherwise about $165,000 piece of equipment. Even if you brought it cheap somewhere, the crane that could actually brace itself to the ground and lift those containers. We got 6 of them sitting out on the property now. The cheapest you get that is about $50,000 to $80,000. And so that expense and adding that to that, you could have built 3 houses with brick by the time you paid the money.
We did that comparison of alternative buildings, and we used the containers as one of the alternative building materials, and it just, I don't know, I guess it just isn't worth it in a sense. The bottom line is the time and the finances. It just didn't make as much sense. You weren't cutting much out as far as more money, more time, or even flexibility. It was a lot. Getting them there too, I remember, was a big issue because you had to have the roads done and similar complications that it didn't work as well as what we thought it was going to work.
And what we did on the property when we received, the sister brought a Dell Tech home. Her and her husband had invested in a Dell Tech home to put down in the islands where they were living in Grenada, I think it was. And she paid a ridiculous amount of money for this home. And she did a lot of work. And her husband, they're beautiful people that strive. And unfortunately, the brother left us, went back to Allah, and she pulled her house down there. But she could, since Akanke was on the call, she can educate anybody to the level of things that we had to do to move those containers onto the property. And she can educate you at the costs that were associated with that, and everything else. I won't speak for her, but I will say that she can really give an education on what's involved with actually moving the containers, placing containers, and then using those things in different ways. She doesn't have a container home. I'm not saying she does. Her house is stored in the containers, and it's out there on the property now. But we had a nice amount of work to transition, and it was a good investment paid to move those containers around. I'm not sure that if you have other alternatives, which she did not, but if you have other alternatives, that it wouldn't be money better spent otherwise.
Right.
Okay.
So if there's another question, I'll answer it. Otherwise, brothers and sisters, like I said, I appreciate your time, and I hope that everything was valuable. I'm extremely serious with my office. So those who want to take up on it, I look forward to getting your message when your 10 are ready. If you need any help, assistance, or conversation in between, then I ask you to shoot to me, but only shoot to me if it's functional in getting you to the goal. Not if it's just, I love the brothers and sisters, and I do have time for general talk, just not as much time as I have for purposeful talk, just because of the requirements that are out there. So if there's another question, I'm happy to answer it. Like I said, it's cool.
All right, real quick. I don't have a question. I have a statement. I want to say that I don't want anybody to think that they got to wait for 10 people. Don't think that you have to wait for 10 people. Add your 4 to R6, add your 3 to R4, or whatever the case may be, and we can make it work. You know what I mean?
There we go. That's teamwork right there.
There you go.
I have a question. I want to know, what do you think about this future housing called geometric domes? Have you heard of those?
Yes, and I've actually been in a couple.
You said you've been in a couple? What was your experience? What was your experience with those? Like, do you think they're the future, that they're good housing projects?
So the cheapest and most straightforward structure to build has straight lines and sharp corners. You know what I'm saying? It's true, man. It's true. Everybody wants these circle houses. I get a lot of man, I want to build my circle house. I'd be like, man, you go for your circle house. If you understand how many cuts you got on a piece of timber to make
Faruq
a
know
circle
that
house.
that's what I wanted to. I did.
Oh,
I loved it. I knew.
Yeah,
I've been
I
really
wanted them too.
I've been really peeping those eco capsules and those domes. I mean, I think, I was like, wow, this really might be the future, like the future of housing.
Well, remember the benefit of them, right? I mean, sincerely, we get the domes from the Inuits, right, and
Yes.
the Eskimos. So they use that structure because of the way that it radiates heat inside the house,
Yes.
so that it can keep them warm. That's the primary reason why they build domes, right? The guys here in Kazakhstan and in Mongolia, they build gers, they build yurts.
I love those.
I like those too. I like those.
If you knew what they do to build the outsides of the yurts, so they take the skin from the sheep. I mean, not the skin, the hair from the sheep. They make their felt, like they actually have a lady sit there, they put it together, they roll it behind the horse for like a couple of days, then they lay it back out and they put layer upon layer upon layer of this felt on those structures. Here in Nur Sultan, the worst winter I have had here has been this year. It was negative 53 degrees. And I know this sounds crazy, but I'm at the point now where I wake up in the morning and I come out to my window and open it up and I let that cold air hit me like when I'm happy, like, oh, it's great. But the air is really clean. It's real clean. It's real pure. It's coming up the mountains in the Caspian Sea. And so like taking it in, like it opens you up in the most beautiful way. But they put those yurts covered in the snow in negative 52. And that's negative 52 in the city. I'm telling you, out in the countryside where there are minimal barriers for the wind, that wind cuts through them joints like I ain't never seen. We were in a blizzard down on the farm. That blizzard was so thick, we went 300 yards, man. It took us 5 hours to go 300 yards in that blizzard. We couldn't see nothing. And the dude was in the car like this, you know what I'm saying? Like, wait a minute, and trying to make sure the car is moving like the whole time. So, but those structures hold up in the midst of all of that. So there is the wind cuts around them because they're circular. So there's a benefit to them. I'm just saying, like, if you're in Georgia and you're not dealing with blizzard, build for a wall, toss a roof on that joker. You know what I'm saying? Make sure you have good insulation. It's the quickest way to get to where you want to go. Building circles is tough. Building circles is tough, and it's tough to maintain, and it's tough to keep up over time.
Well, what about?
I thought they had longevity. I thought they were really good. They're really good with how long they last and their fire retardation and everything like that.
The dome that was built in the 70s? Most of the domes that built in the 70s look like crap right now.
They do look like that.
Like almost all of them. Everywhere in the world, they look like crap.
We're messing up my dome dream. It's fine.
What about container homes, Faruq?
Vision of a tiny house village. What do you think about the tiny homes? The tiny
homes are wonderful. The only problem with tiny homes is that most people haven't created the laws that actually allow you to build them. And you have to always build them on a frame. The frame, you have to build them on something that can actually move in order for it to be legal. And that's been the biggest problem, right? So the only thing about Hancock County is this. If you want to go down and build 400 square foot structures, right? 400 square foot structures, 20 by 20. You can build as many as you like, and most likely no one will ever say anything. Because as long as you're behind the cover of your woods, the building inspector ain't coming down there. And there is, let me tell you, in Hancock County, there's no noise ordinance. The land is owned by a corporation, not an individual. So we have full rights, meaning that any authority that comes on that property has got to have just cause for coming down. It means a crime's got to be in play and they got to be able to prove it, or else you can shoot them, right? And that's real. So if you build them, you can be down there and be cool. There's no building permit required for any building that structure. So you can build them, but what happens is what's illegal is to run electricity to them. So the moment you run electricity to them, you put yourself in that weird space where you know
Oh,
you don't
wow.
just walk up on your space anymore.
So it would have to be solar powered, basically. If you,
You can do solar power, and then you can. I'm just saying that you can do it, and you can use solar, but you're gonna fight the fight. You're gonna fight the fight. It's a reality. You're gonna fight the fight once you start occupying those small homes.
right.
But the state of Georgia has been working for 3 years to amend their laws around tiny homes. They really have. And so they're trying to amend their laws around tiny homes to allow for structures that, because right now it's no structure under 800 square foot can have electricity running to it.
But
That's
Clarkston did it.
not just a small light like you would in a shed.
Right.
No,
So
Clarkston
if
did
you,
it.
huh?
Clarkston, they did it.
Yeah, so they're working
So
on it
they
from a state level because
right,
Hancock County's building ordinance literally is like 3 pages long. It literally just says all the laws of Georgia we just implement. That's it.
right.
And so if you want to build in some of those small towns and stuff like that, I would say for the next year or two, you should have a comfortable space to build a 400 square foot or 300 square foot structure and run electricity to it and live in it without a problem.
Faruq, what about container homes?
Container homes? Oh,
Yes.
Oh yeah.
I had a project with Senator James a few years ago.
Sister Mary said something. You see, everybody's waking up, so I'm running out of time. Container, but that's what we were just covering, with Brother Todd. The container homes really don't save you a dime. Not unless you're just willing to live in a container with no frills. But as soon as you start dropping windows and framing the interior and dropping insulation and doing the things that you need to make it to a real home, you get into the same experience you would otherwise building a stick home. Because the materials in the container really don't advance that far.
So what about earth bags? Since like so much earth is
Good
readily
question.
abundant.
Good question.
So earth bags is a way of getting past being able to ram the earth, right? Because our bricks are essentially just bricks that are small units of rammed earth. So when you deal with earth bags, it is a good construction method. People do use it. A lot of people jump in it without knowing all that's required to do it because you have to build some kind of framing to keep the earth bags from falling over. So you have to build some kind of framing. In those cases, earth bags are best structured in circular structures because the circular structure helps them not cave in on each other. But there is humongous limitations to how high you can go with an earth bag home. There's also limitations on the side structure. You can build a big structure, but if you ever look at the earth bag structures online, they're smaller units that are connected to one another through passages because those are the limitations of the material without the material caving in on you, right? Because you can build the earth bags, and then what you can do is you can put a plaster or mortar in between the bags to create a smooth wall, and they'll work. But just you have a limit at how big you can build the structures, though. They can't be that big. The reason that we use the earth brick is because you're using the same earth that you put in the bags. The earth bags benefit you because you don't have to process the earth. But the problem I have with earth bags is you have to buy the bags. that's my problem. Like at some point you're gonna be like, I'm tired of buying these bags. So and you won't find, like, unless you're starting to weave canvas, unless you get to where you're weaving canvas. And if you're weaving canvas, I wouldn't be using it for earth bags. I'd be using it for something else. So unless you get to that point, you wouldn't be making your own bag. You'll still be buying an oil-based plastic bag that's interwoven to fill up with dirt and stretch out in that way. So you'll still have to do that. But it's a good solution for some, depending on what they want to do with the size of their structures. But you don't save any time with it. It's also still extremely labor intensive.
Okay. Yeah, brother. I'm gonna send you a request on Facebook when my just to stay in contact with you when my account gets off of restriction, because I kind of
I had a couple of white boys say I said racist things to them, so they started cutting me back.
Yeah, I said white devil on a comment, and they restricted me 3 days.
Yeah, I told one cat who was preaching some crap. I said, man, if your white ass try to come up with mine, I'm gonna bust you in your skull, and you ain't gonna have none left on this earth. And they said that I was doing terroristic threats.
Oh snap!
Yeah, they bugging on Facebook. They really cracking down. They're shutting down a lot of YouTube channels. I mean, anything that has to do with, like, if you say, even if you call somebody a simple-minded Negro, they'll shut you down. If you say something about crackers or anything in that nature, they'll shut you down.
Yeah, it goes pretty far. I think it's a little unfair as a segue. It's unfair at how many things that a person can say to insinuate the degradation of a black person, and how few things that we can say back to insinuate the degradation of someone who's racist. You know, everything that we have to say back can be construed as racism, whereas not everything that they say can be construed as racism from a bot standpoint or an AI standpoint. So I think it's a real lopsided thing, you know. But hey, man, we build our own platforms, and more importantly, because we built our own platforms, we propagate our own platforms. Then we can get past that, you know. But until then, Facebook's a good channel. So I see people falling off, and I see people cutting off their video because they getting sleepy. They don't want nobody to see their sleepy face. So I think that's the signal. Y'all brothers, stay in touch. Like I said, I'm serious about those who want to jump in, man, and I'm always here to support. That's what we're here for. Much love to everybody, and I pray that God bless us all with safety. There's a lot of threats to us being who we are, and a lot of threats to us having the minds that we have. And the only way to overcome it is for us to do for ourselves. So I pray that God give us the strength necessary in order to make those jumps, so that we can assist each other in building something. It doesn't matter if we share the same religion or we share the same thing. We share the same hardship, and we share the same problems. We have the same solutions. So I'm dedicated for us all working together to make something happen that's valuable for us and our children. In my own way, I'm gonna say it in the best way I know how. Allah bless all of y'all, man, and give y'all the best out of all of your efforts and your brotherhood, and help you in every way that I possibly can.
Thank you, man. I appreciate
How
that.
do we reach you?
And, I'm about to drop the call. Peace and blessings to everybody. You know, nice meeting everybody.
Nice meeting you as well.
How do we reach you,
Nice meeting
Faruq?
everyone.
How do we reach you?
Oh, I still have my American phone number with me. I carry my cell phone with me everywhere. You can call me at 404-990. Well, no, that's not it. What is it? I don't know my phone. 936-6040. Hit me on WhatsApp. You can send me a messenger on Facebook. I'll get it. If I don't respond right away, it's just because I'm running. That's all. I have a ridiculous schedule, and I'm just putting it to it, trying to make it work. So as soon as I get something, I respond.
So 404-936.
6040. And like the best way to get me is on through that one is on WhatsApp.
Perfect. Thank you.
All right, my sister. All right, everybody. Assalamu alaikum, shalom. Good night. Talk to everybody soon. Much success.
Peace and love. Much success to you.